Ladies and gentlemen, this short film highlights victories over the past 25 years. It's incomplete, it's in no particular order, and it could never name all the deserving leaders among us. But it doesn't matter whether it's comprehensive or even chronological. What matters is that you know that yours is a feat without equal on the planet. While the world's last few supposedly free people of England, Australia, Canada, South Africa have surrendered their liberties in obedient fear, you said not just no, but hell no. And in so doing, you are why so much freedom was reclaimed and preserved on our watch. It's easy to forget how bad it was after the Gun Control Act of 1968. America was not a safe place for the Second Amendment or gun owners in the 1970s.
My staff and the staff of the Appropriations Committee has been investigating BATF for at least the last 2 years, looking to see how they have implemented the 1968 Gun Control Act. What we find is a pattern of abuse of the rights of legitimate law-abiding citizens, the harassment of people who own guns or violating no law, the attempt to entrap innocent victims into a violation that they can then prosecute. We've also seen the instance where they confiscate gun collections, they take no care of them, they destroy them, even though there's no prosecution or they fail to get a conviction. They refuse to return the guns to the people who lawfully own them. That pattern of abuse under the 1968 Act is sufficient reason for us to seek changes.
You are saying that the 1968 Gun Control Regulatory Act is just too tough.
It's overly broad. It doesn't target the real bad guy. It leads to a lot of regulatory offenses against honest citizens, which is how the National Rifle Association got involved in this debate.
A hot battle is being waged on Capitol Hill over the McClure-Volkmer bill that would revise the 1968 Gun Control Act.
The Firearms Owners Protection Act was landmark legislation that would repeal many wrongs, end abuses, and save countless lives from ruin. And the NRA led the fight.
The Reagan administration supports a new bill called the Firearms Owners Protection Act, or the McClure-Volkmer bill.
6 long years later, the act became law. But the enemy was only catching his breath. Designed to deprive low-income Americans of affordable self-defense, the ban on so-called Saturday night specials couldn't even define what one was, except any gun the gun haters hated.
What we're talking about is a cooling-off period and time for local police to run a good background check.
It's a common misconception that the Brady's won. They did not. The Brady waiting period for gun purchases was replaced by the system the NRA supported that's in place today, the National Instant Check System. As violent crime rates went up, anti-gun schemes rained down. But the NRA fought back, defending the right to self-defense, a topic of intense interest, especially to women. As proof the gun ban crowd never runs out of lies, how about banning plastic guns?
A separate bill to restrict plastic guns, introduced by Ohio Senator Howard Metzenbaum, is also opposed by the NRA.
There are currently no plastic guns in existence, and according to the FAA as well, they can detect plastic explosives and plastic firearms with current technology. It's our position that a terrorist doesn't need an undetectable weapons system to breach civil aviation security in this country. In fact, it's been widely reported that all they would need to do is apply for a job.
Another lie almost became law, but the plastic gun myth was exposed.
Tell the NRA that their nightmare is true. We're back. We're not going away after Brady. We have a lot to do.
One item on their to-do list were ammunition bans in countless forms and places. Defeated. Another achievement was the creation of the NRA Foundation in 1990. The foundation has awarded more than $51 million to thousands of programs that preserve our shooting and hunting heritage.
Dave McCurdy, Kent Conrad, Jim Sasser, Tom Foley. For 30 years, gun owners trusted you to protect freedom. Sorry, Tom. Washington voters are saying the Speaker has stopped listening.
Despite the most anti-gun White House in history, 90% of NRA-backed candidates won in the 1994 and 96 elections, replacing an anti-gun Congress and unseating the first Speaker of the House in 134 years.
All I can tell you is we have a higher percentage of people in jail than all the other advanced countries, and they have a lower gun death rate. Why is that? That's because they don't have an NRA in their country.
We're here today to relay to the administration the message the voters gave to America this past Tuesday. Mr. President, it's the criminals, stupid.
While exposing the Clinton administration's miserable record prosecuting federal gun crime, the NRA supported a better idea, Project Exile in Richmond, Virginia.
To make sure that the message about Project Exile gets out, local businesses are paying for billboards and signs on a city bus. Criminals are getting the point.
NRA's influence elevated Project Exile to a national presence as Project Safe Neighborhood. Today, violent crime rates are the lowest in decades. In 1998, the magnificent new National Firearms Museum was unveiled at NRA headquarters. A world-class collection that proudly illustrates our heritage of firearms, freedom, and the American experience. 15 years ago, NRA introduced a gun safety program without an anti-gun agenda.
With me now, stop!
Today, the Anti-Eagle Gun Safe program has reached 17 million kids, and gun accident rates are the lowest on record. To protect shooting ranges from arbitrary harassment by local anti-gun bureaucrats, the NRA has helped pass range protection laws in 45 states and counting. The NRA is leading the fight for firearms preemption laws that keep cities from imposing ordinances more restrictive than state law. Now in 42 states and counting. No more can animal rights zealots poison hunting dogs, spike roads, and harass hunters. Thanks to the NRA hunter protection laws, it's illegal to interfere with a lawful hunt in all 50 states.
I just looked at a set of numbers 10 minutes ago that shows more than 70% of the people want to register all handguns. And if anybody tried that politically in this country, you would destroy them.
What about registering guns? All Americans are required to register their cars. Why not require them to register guns?
Most of the experts with whom I talked before I made my proposal believed that if we required all handgun owners to be licensed.
License those who purchase handguns.
If people could come in when they do get new guns and get a license, that I believe we'd have the same result.
Even though they were sold on prime time by the President, Vice President, Attorney General, and endorsed by most media, you fought back, blocking schemes to register guns and license gun owners. Having lost in Congress, gun haters moved to the courts, where greedy lawyers and big city mayors have filed dozens of lawsuits to sue America's firearm industry into bankruptcy.
We are a bad dream to the gun industry.
We're breaking new legal ground here using product liability laws against the gun industry.
We're seeking $433 million in damages from 38 retailers, distributors, and manufacturers. We're going to hit them right where it hurts, in their bank accounts.
It's not a joke. It's not a game. Nobody's doing this to become famous. We're doing this because the blood and carnage that often rips the heart and soul out of cities has to stop.
To block these junk lawsuits, the NRA helped pass lawsuit preemption in 32 states and is pressing for a federal law. Clinton's 1994 semi-auto ban was based on a lie that 10 years later, they're still repeating, but not getting away with it.
A pretty powerful demonstration of the firepower of these weapons that police, at least Sheriff Ken Jenney and the Broward Sheriff's Office, want to see kept off the streets. Here.
No doubt it puts it in perspective. Our John Zarrella, great report.
Your reporter faked that story yesterday. It deliberately misread the viewer. There's no way it could be true, and I challenge CNN to defend it.
Well, we're not going to continue this interview because our reporter did not fake.
Because you don't want the truth.
All right.
Those features are only cosmetic and don't contribute to an increase in crime. With only one of the listed features, the gun is legal. And without those features, experts say the guns are identical.
It's exactly the same gun.
And the same firepower.
Same firepower, same bullet.
The media is learning. Tell the truth or pay the price. Even about the biggest gun rights story never told, the right to carry.
Today, packing a gun has become respectable, or maybe more accurately, legal.
If our criminal justice system weren't crumbling, if we didn't have criminals on our streets and in our neighborhoods, we wouldn't feel the need to carry firearms for protection.
But many people are horrified at the idea of right-to-carry laws.
That is frightening. Can you imagine just walking up and down the street knowing that 90% of the people you pass has a deadly weapon and you could be their next target? I think that we'd be living in a state of terror.
But surprise, 36 states already have right-to-carry laws. And people in these states are not living in terror. We called state safety officials in all these states, and not one reported an upsurge in crime. Why? Well, maybe because guns are used twice or 3 times as often for defensive uses as they are to commit crimes. That's what happened at this car dealership. The owner had a gun, so when these 2 armed men came in to rob him, he shot it, and they ran. Studies on defensive use of guns find this kind of thing happens at least 700,000 times a year.
Today, the right to carry is respected in 38 states and counting, and violent crime rates are below average in all of them. Always willing to exploit tragedy, the gun ban lobby used the Beltway sniper murders to promote gun registration, disguised as so-called ballistic fingerprinting.
What this database does very simply is link the bullet to the gun. So if you find the bullet, you can then find the gun, where it was purchased and who purchased it.
It's a lie, because a ballistic abrasion made by a gun barrel changes every time you fire the gun. A sniper, a criminal, with steel wool, with a cleaning kit, with a drill, can completely change the characteristics in the time it takes a senator to drink a cup of coffee.
With the power of truth and scientific evidence, the NRA finally exposed the scam.
This sort of wounded rhetoric by the NRA, given how ruthlessly brutal they were to members who were brave enough to vote for the Brady bill and the assault weapons ban, is, you know, these crocodile tears. I don't think it'll wash with the voters.
I've come to believe he needs a certain level of violence in this country. He's willing to accept a certain level of killing to further his political agenda.
If you have a gun, you go to jail. You go to jail. You go to jail. That's what I think it should be.
These automatic, semi-automatic handguns and assault weapons, they really have no place in our society.
If you're really going to push the Second Amendment, get a musket.
Instead, gun owners got registered to vote and defeated Al Gore.
You got to give it to them. They've done a good job. They probably had more to do with anyone else in the fact we didn't win the House this time. And they hurt Al Gore.
Ending 8 years of history's most anti-gun administration with the election of George W. Bush. Proving then, and again in the 2002 elections, that you are a political force to be reckoned with. Winning about 90% of the time. Winning, in no small measure, due to a decade of devotion by this man. A man whose life is a primer for how to be an American patriot. Charlton Heston gave us the tools, taught us the truth, and showed us the way.
Don't be shamed or startled into lockstep conformity by seemingly powerful people who just need to unite and then disobey, boycott. No more leaders who toy with the truth and get away with anything. Petition them, oust them, march, embargo. Raise your hand, stand up, and speak out. We were right, and we've been right all along. Shout down, defy. Refuse to sit in the back of the bus. Raise the roof with your outrage. Banish them. Interrupt, overwhelm. In our revolution, a flame of freedom that cannot be stamped out. Raise hell till the heavens hear this. From my cold, dead hands. From my cold, dead hands.
Throughout his unprecedented terms of service, Mr. Heston enjoyed the extraordinary leadership of his silent advisor, First Vice President Kane Robinson, who accepted the gavel of the presidency when illness forced President Heston to slow down. Our leaders are too many to recognize. Our members, too diverse to stereotype. Our victories, too many to mention. Our battles ahead, too hard to predict. But take this moment to marvel at what we've achieved on our watch. No less than the restoration of this pillar of American freedom. Despite 25 years of history's most wealthy, powerful, and influential adversaries who ignore and often despise average Americans, still, the average Americans beat them. You. Average Americans by the millions who, when freedom called, you came. When threat arose, you stood strong. When you had to, you fought, and you won. You took up the torch of freedom from those that went before. You lifted it high and brightened its flame, so its brilliance might embolden the souls and light the way for its next keepers. Generations will look back on our work long after we're gone and marvel at the legacy of this quarter century when the Second Amendment was renewed on our watch.